it has been another kind of busy month here of purchases, so stay tuned to find out what I got. Hey YouTube, it's Mandak coming at you with another haul video here. So welcome into haul video 177, guys. Hope you're having a great day, week, month, and year, as I always do. So yeah, as I said, this haul video quickly kind of sprang up on me. I have a couple of different trips that I took with some people and some purchases I made over the last, I would say, about month or so. So I'll go through that here. But anyways, as always, we'll get started here with the comics, and we'll go through this video. So here we go. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this video here, this section of haul video 177. So again, starting with the comics, as always, I will go through what I've been reading the last couple of weeks here, I guess, for you. So I know last haul video was a lot of stuff to go through, so I'm very certain this one will be a lot shorter. So stay tuned for that here coming up right now. So go through a couple of things here. I'll get to my main read-throughs that I've been doing here recently. But I did want to start with a book that I just kind of picked up and read. Try to remember why I picked this up and read it like so quickly. Oh man, I'm having a hard time remembering. I think I was traveling somewhere, or I forget where I was, but I think I picked like a weekend. I had a gap in like read-throughs, and I just wanted something to kind of hold me over until I went on my next trip. So like I didn't want to start a book before I got my trip. I'm weird like that. Like if I'm traveling, just a quick aside here, if I'm traveling for work, like, and I recently finished up a book, I will not start the next book that I have slated to start until I actually start traveling. So like I try to maximize the amount of like try to minimize the amount of books I have to carry with me on my trip. So obviously, if I feel like if I start a book and I'm like halfway through, I'll feel like kind of I feel like I might need to add another book to my like backpack to bring with me when I travel. So like I'm trying to prevent that. So I literally just bring books that I have not yet started and try to read them throughout the week and finish them. So I'm really anal like that sometimes with my reading. So like this book was kind of like a stopgap because I think I finished a book on like a Friday evening. And so I just read this like Saturday, like just to kind of fill in some space before I had my next travel day. So anyways, all of that just to say, the book I read was Batman the Cult. This was by Jim Starlin. This was a great book. I honestly can't remember all the details of this book because it was about a month ago that I read it, but I really enjoyed it. It was a very tight-knit book. Obviously involved Batman and Robin. But yeah, it was, the art was amazing. I can't remember who, I want to say Jim was also the artist on this, but I could be wrong. I think it might have been someone else. But funny enough, I actually got this book from my friend about 2 years ago, I think at this point, about a year and a half ago, maybe. He actually bought the hardcover or something. So he actually sold this to me for like the IST price he paid for it. So I was like, okay. So yeah, I got to read that. That was a really quick read, like over 200 pages, and I just breezed through that. That was such a great standalone Batman story. So, excuse me. But yeah, if you're craving some Batman, like late 80s stuff or early 90s, I think, this is a great pickup. Standalone story. You don't really need to know too much more about what's going on in the other, like the overall Batman mythos to really enjoy this book. But yeah, I really thought it was great. Really great pickup. And Jim Starlin, rest in peace, obviously. But really, really enjoyed um, reading this book here. So, that was that. Um, so continuing on through some of my read-throughs here, I want to start with Avengers. So I think last time I ended with The Death of Mockingbird, which was the last West Coast Avengers paperback that I read. So obviously the next stuff I read here was Avengers Iron Man Force Works. So again, just some backstory here, right? The Force Works team came about basically because the end of the West Coast Avengers book basically had the East Coast Avengers falling out with the West Coast team because the East Coast was basically like, yeah, you guys need to disband because you're basically not good enough. And a lot of the West Coast Avengers team members took that as an insult. So they kind of split off and did their own team, which Iron Man and Scarlet Witch kind of led the creation of Force Works. I thought the first part of this book was strong. The second part was just, it kind of lost me. Honestly, the most notable thing that probably happens in this book is the death of Wonder Man. And like, I think the second or third issue, because this comes up later on in the Avengers like storylines down the road. But yeah, basically the first kind of storyline starts with like the Kree invading Earth, which I guess is a safe plot point to use because that's a very common thread in a lot of the Avengers storylines going all the way back to the Kree Skrull War. But yeah, the most notable thing is like Wonder Man dying. And this was just around the time that like Scarlet Witch and Simon were starting to create some type of relationship, if that makes sense. I really don't think this comes to fruition here until we get to Kurt Busiek and George Perez's run, which I will talk about here shortly. But yeah, I thought this was kind of interesting. Like I said, the book definitely lost a lot of steam towards the end. I just felt like it was kind of a slog getting through. The villains were very forgettable. Just some of the character moments I thought were bad. Like I'm a little disappointed because obviously this book is featuring Iron Man. Like it's called Avengers / Iron Man Force Works, right? And I just felt like there wasn't a lot of great like Iron Man moments in this book. And another thing that kind of annoys me with this era is that there's so much back and forth between like who knows Tony's identity and who doesn't, and it's like just constantly back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it's like just pick one and just stick with it, right? Like, that kind of annoys me because it's like at some points it's like, okay, well, how do I read this, right? Am I reading this through the veins of like the person knowing that they're Tony Stark, or he's just Iron Man? So I don't know. Like I said, a little disappointed. Abnett and Lanning, I was kind of expecting more from them on this, but this is more of like their earlier stuff before they hit their stride with some of their other runs like Guardians of the Galaxy. So, but anyways, that was that. And then the next book I read was First Sign, which again, another kind of forgettable storyline, but just some cool moments there. Obviously, this is the Teen Tony era. So this First Sign Avengers book kind of follows up from the Crossing omnibus. So I think I mentioned this last call. Wow, I feel like I'm on a work call. I mentioned this last video that I did read the Crossing omnibus, and then that's when I decided, oh shit, I should probably go back and read West Coast Avengers. So that's why I kind of moved back up to reading First Sign. This was me officially getting caught back up to where I was before. But yeah, First Sign, I mean, there's a reason why this is a $5 book everywhere you go, or even less than that. Not really that great. I didn't realize this when I was reading it, when I bought it, but a lot of this stuff actually double dips with like some other Avengers epics and I think Captain America epics. So I actually think I skipped all the Captain America issues because I read them less than 2 years ago in some of the Captain America epics. I want to say it was like Twilight's Last Gleaming or I forget which one it was, but it was one of the very later epics, like right before, because this is right before Onslaught, I think. So yeah, we're getting close to the end here, and that's pretty much the end of Volume 1 of Avengers that I read. I don't own the Onslaught stuff. I did read a little bit of it in the Fantastic Four epics. So, I know what happens. Onslaught basically kills a lot of the Avengers. I mean, I just feel like a lot of stuff from like the Heroes Reborn, or I guess Heroes Return era, really goes through it heavy-handedly and summarizes what happens in Onslaught. So I don't feel like I really need to go back and read that in its entirety with all the tie-ins. I don't think I'm ever gonna put that on the top of my list, but who knows. So there's that. And as I mentioned, as I alluded to earlier, I did read and finish, since our last haul video, The Avengers by Kurt Busiek and George Perez Omnibus Volume 1. So, a couple things I want to say with this one. Overall, I thought the storylines and the characterization was great. That being said, I do have some qualms with this. Number one, Kurt Busiek's writing is just a tad too dense for me. There was a lot of times in this book where there was some action scenes where I just felt like the characters were just talking so much, and I'm like, just let the art breathe. Let there be some moments where we can just see George Perez's art shine and just see a nice fight scene, because there are a lot in this book, right? There's a lot of fight scenes, there's a lot of great storylines going on. I'm gonna balance the pros and cons as I go here, but I really liked how this run kicked off. It felt very much like the classic like X-Men reboot with Len Wein and Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum, right? Because there's even a scene where they're flying back, because like the first storyline has like all these like historical Avengers kind of teaming up and taking down a big baddie. I can't remember who that is, but yeah, they basically team up to take. I can't remember who it is, but basically at the end of like that storyline, they're like, what are we gonna do with 39 or 36 Avengers? And I really thought that was like a really cute callback to the original like giant size X-Men. So I appreciate that from a nostalgic level. And I will say, like, Kurt Busiek, like he is a student of the game, right? Of the comics. And that definitely shines through here. I think that's why a lot of people like this run, was because it brought all that nostalgic stuff back and tied it into this new run of Avengers, right? Because the Heroes Reborn stuff, I never read it. I don't plan to, but I know that it completely just derailed, where everything was at. It totally just pushed aside all the mythos that existed before it. So I will say that part's nice, but like I said, there's a lot of dense stuff going on here. This may or may not be a hot take, but I was not a big fan of Avengers Forever. That is put into this book. I just could not get into that. It's obviously a storyline about Kang. A lot of people talk about it as like, a lot of people were saying when Kang Dynasty was slated to come out as a movie, and then they realigned or changed course to Doomsday. A lot of people were pointing to Avengers Forever as like the model storyline that Marvel would use to basically create the Kang Dynasty movie. And in some ways, I'm kind of glad they didn't choose it, because I just felt like that story was just very convoluted. Like we started with Rick Jones, and then we have all this stuff going on with Kang, and it was just, I don't know. I just felt like it was it just lost me, right? What I did like about it, though, again, I'm going to go back to the pros here for a second. I did like that we were pulling different characters from different eras, but the one qualm I did have with that was why they had to pull two different versions of Hank. So the team was what's his name? Janice Marvel. You had, I forget what her name is. I forget. It's the woman with like the really loud, like with the voice. I forget what her name is. From Thunderbolts. She was on the team. You had Janet. I think I mentioned Yellow Jacket, Giant Man. So, kind of pre-Yellow Jacket era, obviously. And then you had Captain America soon after the, I want to say it was the Secret Empire storyline, where he found out that the president was part of like this like massive conspiracy. And then the president killed himself in front of Captain America, and then that's right before Captain America becomes Nomad. Um, so I don't know. I just felt like that team was like a little too centric to like the Hank Jan stuff. Like I have no idea why they picked two different versions of Hank. Like to me, it just would have made more sense if they would have picked like a version of Iron Man. Like I think the most obvious like thing they could have done with that, instead of, I think they should have kept Yellow Jacket, because he definitely had more stuff to do in this story than Goliath did, in my opinion. So I would have subbed out Goliath with like a post or like a pre like Demon in a Bottle Iron Man. Obviously, like that's just my personal preference, but I think that would have worked great too, because again, it would have given another character with some type of problem that they're dealing with, similar to, you know, Hank and Captain America, right? So like they would have to help overcome that part to take down Kang and Immortus and all these people, right? So that was just my thing, but um yeah, you know, like I said, this book was good overall. I just thought there was some stuff, like it was just such a dense read through. Like I found myself only reading maybe one or two issues a day, just because it was just so it took me a very long time to get through. I will say the end of the book kind of picked up a little bit. We had a really great storyline. Ultron Unlimited, I think, is what the storyline was. That one was really good. I felt like that one kept me really interested. And obviously that has the famous line from Thor where he says, "Ultron, we would have words with thee," which I'll try to put a picture up here to show that if I can remember to put it here. But yeah, that part was really cool to read that for the first time. But yeah, like I said, you know, if you're a fan of Kurt Busiek's writing, you know, that's the only thing that you might have to just keep in mind with this book, is that it's not going to be a quick page turner type of thing. It's going to be a lot of character development. Another thing I do also want to mention character development wise with this book is there's a lot of, I feel like the main character of this book is like Scarlet Witch. She gets probably the most like one-on-one time throughout all of these issues. And it makes sense because at the center of this team is, she's obviously the chairwoman. And she is also dealing with this new relationship that she has with Simon Williams, because he comes back from the dead, as I alluded to in Force Works. And then you also have the Vision, who we have a really great storyline with Vision and Simon Williams. I think it's the very last issue of this book where the two of them kind of come to a head and they work through some stuff together as two people. So I thought that issue was very well written, very well, like I said, very well tied into the main plot threads going on in this book, and it kind of ends with Vision disappearing. So that's kind of where we leave off with the second omnibus. So, like I said, I think that I really hope the second book is a little bit better. I think it will be. Like I said, overall, I really enjoyed this. There's a lot of cameo things and references to stuff that I thought was really fun. As somebody who's read most, if not all, the original Avengers Volume 1 material. So that is my long ass review of Avengers by Kurt Busiek and George Perez. So I will leave it at that and we'll continue on here. All right. So moving into Spider-Man. I did want to close my read through of that with the Spider-Man by Nick Spencer Omnibus Volume 2. So I believe I mentioned this on my last haul, but I do not have this in printed form. So I actually downloaded and read all these issues digitally on Marvel Unlimited. So I will say this omnibus, these issues read so much faster than the first one. This is not really a spoiler because this book has been out for 5 years now, but these issues have been out for 5 years. But basically, and if you care about spoilers, if you want to skip ahead, that's fine too. But basically, the big reveal here is that Kindred is not Norman Osborn, Harry Osborn, back from the dead. And yeah, the remainder of this book is pretty much just kind of that. You know, I will say, do I feel like it was a pretty long read through? Yeah, but I really enjoyed a lot of the moments here. You know, like I said, we get a lot of stuff with Norman, because Norman kind of becomes this like sympathetic, good character that helps redeem his son. Um, you know, we obviously have the Sin Eater that shows up from time to time in this part of the book too. Um, like I said, I mean, I like this. I thought it was great, but at the same time, I felt like a lot of the relationships that Peter has with like his family and like the people at the Bugle and stuff, I feel like they kind of take a back seat a lot in this storyline. Um, and even at times, I feel like Peter's character itself takes a back seat in this storyline too. Like I feel like, you know, more so the villains and the Osborns take the main stage in this book, which again I have no problem with. But again, if you're gonna call it a Spider-Man book, like, you know, I feel like we need to move Peter forward in some ways, and I think they do in a couple ways here, but just not enough to really make me feel like, oh, he's grown, right? Like, or there's stuff that's happening. You know, I know that after this run, you know, the numbering continues and Zeb Wells takes over, I believe, the writing duties for this volume of Spider-Man. I may or may not read that at some point. Maybe some of this stuff gets resolved there. But you know, uh, like I said, it was a great. You know, this is kind of the opposite way around. It's a good page turner, but did I feel like the substance was there? In some ways, I thought it was. Like I said, I enjoyed the series. I really always I have a preference for the Goblins and the Osborns as like villains and antagonists in the Spider-Man books. I always found myself gravitated to those, even like the Hobgoblin, which I know wasn't exactly the Osborns. I always thought those storylines were like the strongest in like the Spider-Man mythos. So it was great to see like a whole run kind of dedicated to that, because we didn't really get much, if any, of that in like other runs that I've read, like JMS. I think he barely touched on the Osborn like mythos, maybe aside from like Norman showing up like around Civil War time. So, but yeah, that's it. I just realized too, I actually am not done with my Spider-Man read through yet. I have to read Spider-Man Fake Red, which is a manga I bought like years ago. So I have to read that at some point, and then I will officially be done with all my Spider-Man stuff. So I have that on my shelf here that I will get to at some point here or later. Okay, I'm gonna breeze through some of this other stuff here. So Star Wars. I read and finished the actual novel Darth Plagueis, which for anyone who is a fan of the prequels and a fan of like the Sith, I would 100% recommend reading this book. It explains a lot about what happens in episode 1. Darth Plagueis, his involvement in episode 1 is actually way more than I thought it was. And like the last quarter of the book is just so good. Like I was just breezing through it, reading it so fast. It was such a page turner, which is a lot to say for me because I don't normally read books. So this was a great book to read. I think I may have mentioned this a couple times on this channel of me reading this book. So I finally got a chance to finish it early last month. So really highly recommend reading Darth Plagueis by, I think James Luceno is the artist, the writer, if I'm not mistaken, or the author. Okay, so some other stuff here. I read The Old Republic, volumes 1 and 2. So I'll show both of those covers here as I go through this section. Yeah, I picked these two volumes up. When was it? Couple months ago, I think back in October of last year, I picked these up at Second Charles. I read through them. They were okay. The main plot of this story is a Padawan who's been framed for murder, basically by his planet's like Jedi Council, and the Jedi Council basically kills all the other Padawans because they foresee the Sith, like coming to life in their planet, and then basically generates this whole like wild goose chase to hunt down this Padawan. He makes some friends along the way. Um, I just, I read almost 40 issues of this, and there was like, it just kept going and going and going without much plot resolution. And I'm like, okay, I gotta jump out. I can't continue to read this. And a lot of the characters were very convoluted, just a lot of stuff going on at once. And I just couldn't really get into it that much, unfortunately. It also doesn't help too that like I don't really have a lot of frame of reference with this era. It's just a lot of stuff that was mentioned just wasn't stuff I was familiar with. So like I feel like with Star Wars in particular, like that's something I really need, at least from my standpoint, is something to kind of frame my reference around. Like, oh, okay, this is set in the Empire, and this is what's already happened. This is what's coming in the future. So like this is kind of where it sits in the timeline, right? But nonetheless, if you're into Old Republic, it may be something you might want to check out. The next two books here I read were Rise of the Sith, volumes 1 and 2. So funny enough, actually, after I finished collecting both of them, I actually saw the omnibus for this material at a Second and Charles down in Delaware about a year or so ago. So I was like, darn, I could have had an oversized format. But anyways, in comparison to the Old Republic stuff, I thought this was much better. We get a lot of Jedi-centric stuff, a lot of things around Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi. The second volume had a storyline with Kid-Mundi, which I thought was really good. I thought that got better as I read it. I was telling my friend this the other day, but I think it's crazy how like Kid-Mundi can like basically have the exception about having children and all this stuff, and like I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me, because like earlier on in like these epic collections, like there's a storyline with Mace Windu like helping move like Padawan kids to like a transport to take them away from their parents, and like there's even a moment too where he gets communication from his biological parents saying like, hey, I know we can't contact you, but we miss you. And like I thought that part really resonated, like helped drive home like the point of this and like why that happens in the Jedi Order. So I thought that was interesting. The second volume had a lot of tie-in stuff with the movies. So like we had a bunch of like adventures with Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi before the events of episode 1. And then we actually had the 4-issue miniseries tie-in comic for episode 1, which basically goes verbatim for the movie. Had a couple one-shots at the end, but overall I thought it was good. We had some nice Darth Maul stories sprinkled in between both epics, which I thought was really fun. Those were really nice to read. I thought they moved pretty quickly, and anything Darth Maul I feel like is good. There's a lot of hype around him right now. Obviously a new TV show just came out for him on Disney Plus, so there's a lot of hype for him right now. So but yeah, that's where I'm at with my Star Wars read-throughs. The next era I guess that I'll be reading is The Menace Revealed, which I actually have the epics sitting here down here with me. I only have volume 4, so I'll probably just end up reading that. Just in the interest of time and trying to chug through my collection, I'm not going to read through all of the epics for Star Wars. So I'll probably just be reading the ones that I own, and if I can go back and sprinkle in some ones that I missed, that'd be great. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now with that. Okay, last one here. Jeez, we're almost half hour into this. The last book I want to talk about here as I continue to read through this series is Pokemon Adventures. So recently got back into playing Pokemon. I'm actually playing through Heart Gold right now again, because I just really got into it again for some reason. I don't know, it's just a seasonal thing. I think that comes and goes for me sometimes. But I actually started reading the Leaf Green and Emerald, I believe. Or no, I think it's just Leaf Green box set. So I actually finished reading the Pokemon Adventures Volume 23 volume. I hope to finish the 24th volume today, but essentially this plot line has red, blue, and green going back to the Kanto region, and they go to the Sevi Islands, sorry, Sevi Islands, which it was the post-game location in the Leaf Green and Fire Fire Red games. So basically, they're there to basically try to find out about this new Pokemon named Deoxys, and Giovanni shows up. So I really like this. Obviously, as someone who's played the games, I think it's cool to see like some of the landmarks and some of the characters that we see in the game like show up in the manga here. And I'm really excited to see how they kind of move this with Deoxys, because obviously like one of the DLCs, one of the tickets you could have gotten for this game was, I think, the Rainbow Pass or something to go to Birth Island, which is where you could catch Deoxys. Now, obviously, that ticket doesn't exist anymore, but I believe they added it for the DLC or for the downloadable version of the Leaf Green and Fire Red that's actually available on the Switch. So that is one thing that's kind of enticing me to want to get those games, is to go and actually play those like tickets to go catch those Pokemon. So we'll see. I don't know if I want to justify spending $20 for that, but it would be really cool to play a game that classic on my Switch. So hopefully I'm not talking myself into it, Anyways. So that is all of my read-through stuff. 30 minutes later. I apologize for taking so long, but anyways, I'll stop here and then we'll go to the next section and we'll do the haul video at last. So stay tuned for that. All right, guys. So thank you for sticking with me. Again, if you had to fast forward through this to get to this part, no worries at all. So yeah, we'll go through this haul. So I do want to just preface this by saying that I think aside from one book, everything else is actual real books. So this is definitely, definitely not something that I hope to do all the time, but I had some free time and decided to go shopping with one of my friends at Second and Charles. And we were able to find some nice books for sale. I also got some books while I was out with my wife. The other day, we went to this bookshop in Harrisburg. I think it's called Midtown Bookshop. I could be wrong. But yeah, was able to find a book there, and that's the book I will start with here. So that book I found at that bookshop was Dungeon Crawler Carl. So I've had a lot of my friends recommend this book series to me. I've even had some coworkers also recommend this book series to me too. Even the cashier, when I was ringing this out, he was like, "Wow, you found this book for $10?" Because original paperback price for this was $20, which I think is a little insane price-wise, but anyways. But yeah, this was technically a used copy, so I got it for half off. And I'm really excited to read this. Like I said, I've had a lot of people recommend this series to me. Like I said, even the cashier said that he read through this whole series in a month, which I'm definitely probably not going to be able to do. But yeah, I'm really excited to read this. I've heard nothing but great things about it, and hopefully I can continue to collect more of these paperbacks as they come out. So really nice to get that for a good price. The next book I got here was another book that I wanted to get for my read-throughs, and that is the third book of Dune, called Children of Dune by Frank Herbert. So from what I found out from my friend, this is actually the European or the UK version of this book. So nothing's different on the inside, just the cover and everything is a little bit different here, but yeah, I've again heard nothing but good things about Dune as a movie, as a book series, so I'm really excited to read. I'll probably start with the first 3 books, and then from there, we'll go from there, but nonetheless, really cool to get that, and love this artwork on this book. Obviously, it looks really cool to see that on the side, so yeah, really hyped to have that in the collection. All right. Some other books I got here, some Star Wars books. Actually, before we get to Star Wars, let's do all the Star Wars books together. All right, this other book my friend found in the store while I was shopping around. He actually found this for me, and that is Ready Player 2. So I think a couple of months ago at this point, I was able to get Ready Player 1 with my friend when we were at the store, so I got Ready Player 2. So really excited to read this series. I think this should hopefully be a good, easy read to read both of these books. This is, someone who's set in a video game and stuff like that, and obviously has a lot of cool references to video games that I think I'll enjoy. So yeah, really cool to get this for a decent price there. All right, so some Star Wars books I got. I was able to pick up some of the new Thrawn books. So I got Thrawn by Timothy Zahn. So this is the official canon book of Thrawn. So this again, really excited to read this. I did years ago at this point read the Thrawn trilogy, the Legends Thrawn trilogy that came out in like the 90s. Read all those through audiobook, really enjoyed them. So really excited to delve back into Thrawn's character and get to read a book like this. This is a really thick book, almost 500 pages. So I think this is probably going to take me a while, but I'm excited to delve into these. I'll have to see where I kind of want to place this in my reading order for all my other Star Wars books. So we'll see how that goes. Next one here I got was Thrawn Alliances. So this is actually the second book in this trilogy. So there's only one more book I have to get, and that's Thrawn Treason, I believe is what it's called. So this one, Thrawn Alliances, has a lot of flashbacks with Thrawn and his relationship with Anakin Skywalker, during the Clone Wars. And then obviously we have him during the Empire. You can see here Vader's there. So I was making jokes with my friend when we were in line to buy this. I was like, yeah, this probably just threw Vader on there just to help promote and sell more of these books because, Vader sells. So, but nonetheless, I thought this is a really cool follow-up book, and I'm really excited to get the chance to read this one as well. So this copy is a little beat up. I think both of these were used. So, it is what it is. That's kind of the price you pay for some of these books, but nothing too crazy. Just a little bit of wrinkling on the spine there, but nothing too bad going on there. All right. Next book I got was a book that I previously owned and actually sold back, and actually just ended up rebuying, and that is Lost Stars by Claudia Gray. So this story is a story between two lovers who are actually, one goes to be in the rebellion, and another one goes to be in the Empire. We kind of see how their relationship takes a strain because of that. So this book I got for $2.50, which kind of makes sense because there's a little bit of a dent there, but nonetheless, the rest of the book reads perfectly. I don't see any issues with this book. I'm just showing you pages like it's a graphic novel, but this book is thick too, 500 and almost 550 pages. But the text is pretty big, so I think it shouldn't take me too long to get through. But yeah, I did start this a while ago, like I would say probably close to 10 years ago. When I bought this, I started reading it and then never finished it. So I'm hopefully looking to start this and finish reading these now. So that was a good pickup for only $2. All right, next book I got here, kind of just walked into the store and saw this on a shelf, and it was a pretty decent price, and that is the Star Wars Queen's Hope. So obviously this has Padme. You can see here the artwork on the back. I thought it's really cool. That's from episode 2. So from what I can see on the inside, this is actually right after her and Anakin get married. So this is like right at the beginning of the Clone Wars, and just some stuff going on here with that, and kind of her storyline and her point of view, during that era, which I thought was a pretty unique storyline to have and to read. This is by E.K. Johnston, which that name sounds familiar. I don't know if I've read any other books from that person before, but yeah, really cool. And apparently this is a sequel to Queen's Shadow, so maybe I'll have to hunt that one down at some point too and see if I can find that one. Because I'm assuming I have to read that first before this. I don't know, but anyways, really nice pickup. Got this for $8, which I thought was a really good deal. All right, and then the last Star Wars book I got was one that I found for a really great price of $9, and that is the Star Wars Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray. So, yeah, got this, and I'm like, oh, man, I really wish I would have got this like about a month ago, because I could have read this before I read the novelization of episode 1, which I'm currently reading right now. But nonetheless, this will probably be the next book I'll read in my reading order here. I'll just go back and read this. This obviously comes before episode 1, but yeah, this is another new canon book that came out related to episode 1 with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan here. So again, Claudia Gray, a lot of Claudia Gray material in this book, in this series, in this my collection now, it seems like. You know, obviously she wrote Lost Stars and then the Leia books, and now this is, I think, the 3rd or 4th book that I have of hers. So really excited to read this. I think this will be a fun read, and you know, to get a nice hardcover like this for a really good price, I think that's really great. So really cool to pick up there. I had that on my list to get, and I'm really excited I found it for such a great price. So there's that. All right. And then the last book here, kind of an instinctual buy, probably something I kind of overpaid for, but because I was saving so much money on these other books, I kind of was like, that's my math that I like to do in my head and just accept it, right? So that book I got here was Aquaman Deadly Waters, the deluxe edition. I was more drawn to this just by the creators, Jim Aparo, Neil Adams, Steve Skeets. You know, this collects issues 49 to 56 of Aquaman. Don't know what volume that is, but looks really cool. I believe Neil Adams is doing most, if not some of the art, I guess. I think Jim Aparo is doing some of the art too. So I think these are the 2 artists and that's the writer. But yeah, really cool to get this in oversized format. Paid $17 for this, which I think is a little overpriced in my opinion for such a small paperback. But this is kind of the only classic Aquaman stuff that I have. I think this is further on in the Bronze Age, that it's not going to be too dense to read through. So, you know, we'll see. It's still sealed in plastic, so I feel like it's somewhat still kind of new. So kind of, like I said, not something I have on my radar, but, you know, small oversized paperback or oversized hardcover, I feel like would be a nice thing to add to the collection of Aquaman. I don't think I have much other Aquaman stuff from that era that I will care to read at some point. So, but yeah, that is my haul. So I love how my actual haul was like a third of what I'm reading was. But anyways, thank you guys for watching this part. Let's go ahead and get into the Lego. All right, guys, thanks for tuning back into this Lego section. So hopefully this will be a lot faster. Yeah, so in the last about month or so, Kohl's did a sale where they had some Lego sets on sale, but they also had a coupon for $10 off a purchase of $50 of toys. And it's funny, when I saw that coupon, I just automatically assumed that Lego would be excluded. So when I clicked on it, I was like, here comes the disappointment. And sure enough, they wrote includes Lego, which obviously triggered something for me. And I was like, okay, here we go. Time to cook, because between this coupon and the Kohl's Cash, I would be able to get some nice stacking. And apparently, I also found out that this coupon had an unlimited amount of uses during the time that it was available. So I kind of went ham. So I'll go in order with that. But before I get to that, I do want to talk about one other thing I picked up, and that is I was at a Lego store, about a month ago with my in-laws over in New York, and we actually were there during a Lego event, Lego building event. So they were giving away these lightsabers that you can build, and they would let you also put the smart brick on them to make them make sounds. Now, obviously, I didn't do that part, but I did ask them for a couple of bags. So they were able to give me 2. So I'll be able to build 2 lightsabers. I think there's 3 colors in here that you can choose, the red, green, or blue. lightsabers. So I'll have to see if maybe I can make a third one in my collection and kind of have all of them displayed. But yeah, nonetheless, kind of cool to get these. I have the instructions somewhere. I'll have to look them up. I think I took a picture of them, so I can build these. But yeah, really cool to get these at the Lego store. I hardly ever get a chance to go in there during the actual building events, so it's really cool to actually be there in person to get these for the first time. So yeah, there's those. All right, so I'll kind of go in order of when I made these purchases, just so I can show you guys what I got. So the first purchase I made was the Lego Game Boy. So I've really wanted this for a while. $60 for this was a little high for me. Not too high, obviously, but yeah, something I wanted to wait for a sale. So like I said, it was able to get the $10 off. So brought it down to 50, and then I also had Kohl's Cash. So I was able to bring it down to $40, which you really can't beat that for a game for this set. This is amazing. This is such a great set. It has so much nostalgia for me. You know, obviously, you know, growing up, Nintendo was my console. You know, I got my first Game Boy Color when I was pretty young, right? So obviously I have a lot of nostalgia with this game, and obviously I'm still playing those consoles today. So really excited to get this a build and add this to the collection. This will definitely go right next to my NES downstairs in the basement. So really cool to get this set for a really good price, and really excited to get this a build. All right. Next set I got here was two things to kind of get me over that mark to get the discount and then use the Kohl's Cash. So picked this up. I got the Batman tumbler. So I actually don't have a tumbler in my collection at the moment, but this one was really great. This one actually comes with Two-Face and the Joker from the Dark Knight movie. So original price on this was $60. I was able to get it down to $50, and then I also used another $10 of Kohl's Cash to bring it down to $40, or I think I had $5 or something. Because I also bought this right here too. So I put these two together to get the you know, the proper discounts and everything like that, and get the proper Kohl's Cash amount back. So yeah, I'll probably end up picking up another one of these to keep sealed, but this is the new poly bag that they came out with for Batman, which I thought was great. Actually has 2 minifigs in it, so that's really cool to get that. So we'll get that a build at some point. But yeah, but going back to the tumbler for a second, yeah, when this came out for 60, I definitely was not picking it up for 60, and I believe this may already be retired or is retiring by the middle of this year. So wanted to grab this before that ended up leaving the shelves. So really cool to get that for a really good price there. Next set I got, another one I was able to stack some Kohl's Cash on to get a decent, I think I got this for 50 because I think it was originally retailing for 70, and that is the Jango Fett's helmet. So obviously, man, 6 years now ago, I bought the Boba Fett helmet. That's when the first helmet line came out. So really excited to see that they brought this back last year and gave us some really nice helmet sets, including Jango Fett here. Yeah, I definitely think they've improved the build of this since that first Boba Fett helmet, but nonetheless, this will be great to build and you know, add to the collection here. I just need to get the fire spray, Jango Fett's fire spray, Starship. You know, I still need to get that set at some point, but that one just came out last year, so I have some time to wait for a good sale and build that one and put it next to this helmet, like I did with Boba Fett's fire spray and his Starship. So really coming together. I love all this synergy of different sets that they give us for this. But yeah, there's that. And then, like I said, really, really cool to get Jango Fett material. We don't really get a lot of nice premium sets like this from the prequel era, so really cool to see that. And the last set I got, because this one I was able to use a bunch of accumulated Kohl's Cash to get $10 off of, and that is the thumbnail for this video, and that is the Harry Potter Hagrid and Harry's Privet Drive Escape. So yeah, plan to put this next to the larger like set that I got of this about a year ago. really cool. I mostly bought this for the minifigures. I think those two Death Eaters are really cool. I wonder if they're exclusive to this set. But also that Hagrid's minifigure is really cool too. So um, yeah, I mean 124 pieces. I really don't think this set should have been $20 to start, but I guess the reason why is because of all the minifigures. Um, but yeah, $10 for this is a lot easier pill to swallow, in my opinion. um, so there's that. So this one will be a nice little build too to add to the collection. So 7 minutes later, I feel like my haul without all the comic stuff would have been by about like maybe 15 minutes. But anyways, that was my Lego. So really excited to build all that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and close out this video. All right, guys. So thank you so much for watching this video today. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, a lot of great stuff to add to the collection. And like I said, a lot of books to read. As I mentioned last haul, as I get older, definitely looking to get more actual novels to read because I've actually officially passed the 65% mark of my comic collection. So I'm very much hoping to get to that, close to that 70% mark by the end of this year. So we'll see how that goes. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please consider commenting, liking, and subscribing for more content. I have a whole playlist of these hauls that you can go back and look at on my channel. So thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys on the flip side. Peace.